Now onto the newsline. Donald Trump, Trump Organization chairman and president, on the telephone with us with his reaction. Donald, good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Good evening.
What is your reaction to this downgrade by S&P?
Well, I'm not a big fan of S&P. I have to start off by saying that. I've watched them over the years. I'm in the real estate business. I watched them giving rave reviews to the mortgage market, which just absolutely crashed around them. I don't think they know anything more than anybody else. Probably they know less. And I think they're probably doing this as a way of trying to resurrect their reputation, which is terrible. So I'm not a big fan. With that being said, we have a dysfunctional government. We really have a dysfunctional country. We have no leadership and a couple of other minor little problems.
So how does this change, for example, your business? Give us practical implications. Are you expecting interest rates to move higher this year immediately, or is it a 2012 affair? What's your take on rates?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest impact on my business, I like to buy things, and I like to buy real estate. And if real estate goes down, I sort of like that because I try and buy it for the right price. So from my standpoint, I sort of like it. I mean, I'm being offered things that I never thought I'd ever be buying. I'm buying things that I never thought I'd be buying. So I like it from my standpoint as a very selfish person. Now, as a good American and a good U.S. citizen, I don't like what's happening because our country is not respected. We have poor leadership. And, you know, as an example, yesterday in President Obama's weekly address to the nation, he didn't even mention the downgrade. He mentioned other things. He didn't even mention the downgrade. So this is not a man that was, in my opinion, supposed to be the president of the United States. He's not equipped to be the president of the United States.
But Donald, let's be fair. This is Bill here. Let's be fair. I mean, both sides of the aisle are to blame if we're going to be downgraded by S&P. I mean, the gridlock that has occurred in Washington over the last few months, in fact, you could go back a few years at this point, has been breathtaking to the point where they are not getting the work done that's needed to shore up our nation's balance sheet. And you can point to both sides of the aisle on that, can't you?
Well, I agree, Bill. But, you know, when you're the president, you're supposed to solve problems. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to get the Republicans and the Democrats together in a room and make a deal and make a real deal. And, you know, I'd watch you guys all the time, and I always watch you. And I kept hearing Steve would say, and I think I have great respect for Steve, by the way, who I think is with you right now.
He's sitting right here waiting to ask you a question.
Edge of my seat, Donald.
Well, I really do. But I have to tell you, you know, I kept hearing $4 trillion and $5 trillion, and they end up with $2.7 trillion, but the 2.7 doesn't kick in for a long time, and it's really not 2.7, and it's things that would have happened automatically anyway. So, you know, when you have a situation like that, and you know, I'm all for no taxes, but when you have oil companies that are getting subsidies, oil companies that work very closely with OPEC, by the way, you know, there are a lot of problems. So we have a president that has to lead, and if he's not going to lead, he shouldn't be president.
Donald, in the midst of this afternoon, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner said he was going to stay on. What do you think of that?
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, we're in a mess, and he hasn't done a good job, and I think it's probably maybe time for a new broom, because he has not done a good job. Look, the first time in our country's history this has happened. Now, again, I just started by saying I don't have a lot of respect for S&P, and I'm in a business where they called everything wrong, and I mean really wrong, and we all know that. But nevertheless, how could they allow a thing like this to happen? Even as a government, they should have been putting pressure on S&P not to do this, but they didn't do that. So I don't think he should stay on, no.
Donald, let me ask you from a fundamental standpoint what you see out there. As a business person with a great vantage point in terms of real estate and transactions in general, what can you tell us about the underpinning of the economy right now? What kind of a second half are you expecting?
Well, I think probably until this happened, and we'll all see tomorrow what's going on with this. But I think that I would have said, if you would have asked me that question 3 or 4 days ago, just sort of nothing much, nothing good, but not horribly bad, just sort of trudging along while China booms, while other countries are booming. If you look at what's going on in India and other places, they're just absolutely booming. We're trudging along at a very, very slow pace. I see tremendous job. When I look at the job reports, I mean, I just think it's amazing. And yet we have India that has many of our jobs. We have China that makes our, you know, that does so much of our manufacturing that we used to do, and essentially they're taking our jobs, and they're doing it through a manipulation of the currency. So, you know, nobody puts pressure on other countries.
Yeah.
And We're just a bunch of very foolish people, and we're foolishly led.
Donald, did I hear you say earlier that prices in commercial real estate are coming down? Do you feel that we're seeing a slowdown in the economy, whether S&P downgrades American debt or not?
Well, I think we have a tale of two cities. Places like New York, they're going up, and a couple of other places where, you know, I'm in a lot of different places. But New York has been strong. In fact, I could even say very strong. And some other places, Washington is very strong. But, of course, Washington's strong because the government is gobbling everything up, which is not a good thing in terms of the country. But Washington's been a very, very strong area. So, you know, I see that, but I also see other locations where, frankly, real estate values certainly have not gone up.
All right, we will leave it there. Donald, great to have you on the program, as always. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you very much.
We will see you soon. Donald Trump, Chairman, Trump Organization.